This is the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich, founder of Abich Financial Services.
When it comes to your financial future, there are 5 specific areas, 5 mistakes that can cost you later. So this is what we want to unpack here with Abe Abich, founder of Abich Financial Services, financial advisor, retirement planner. When it comes to the future, Abe, you can find us anytime at theretirementkey.com. Also links posted in the show notes. But your literal job is to help us avoid these kinds of mistakes that can cost us later. And before we dive into this, let me ask you the question then, because for somebody that's getting close to retirement and maybe they've heard you, maybe they've been a DIY investor or they've had a help with growth investor, but they know they need to find somebody new for this next phase of their financial life. You talk a lot about the differences between most financial advisors and what you do. Mm-hmm. So somebody that wants to avoid costly mistakes later, right. What's the time frame then? When should they be calling you? When they're 55, 50, 65? What's the time frame?
I would say definitely 10 years or less, and especially 5 years or less away from full retirement, which is where most of our new clients are. Okay. Right. And we have people retiring this year, like in months. Yeah. A couple that just came in recently where the wife just retired and the husband's retiring in the next 3 months. Okay. Like they are literally standing on the goal line of retirement. Yeah. 5 years or less, we call that the retirement red zone. If you think about football, you're on the 5-yard line, ready to score. Not a lot of room for error. It gets very hard to score a touchdown 5 yards out because the entire defensive team is there stacked up against you. Well, there's just not a lot of time left. If you consider your personal life with 5 years or less, you got to avoid massive downturns in the market. You want to get everything buttoned up and streamlined and consolidated as much as possible. You want to be maxing out accounts and taking advantage of saving every dollar you possibly can. Yeah. Because you only have 5 years left. Yeah. Lots and lots to consider. Okay. But that's a great time to start putting together your phase 2 plan because you're at the goal line and you're down to 60 months or less. It's a short period of time that's going to fly by. Yeah.
Well, let's unpack this article. It's on thestreet.com. These 5 mistakes that can cost you later. Let's go through the points here so that you can flesh out for us a bit what we need to be thinking about and also how we need to apply it to our retirement plan. Point number 1 is just not having a plan. Plain and simple.
Right. How do you know unless you're a financial planner, unless you're a financial advisor, unless you're just a financial whiz, unless you're just extremely successful with money and know it in and out and you know all the rules, not just how to save and invest and accumulate, but all the rules surrounding the money like taxes and transferring and rollovers and buying and selling and all of that. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people come in, Heather, with $15 to $20 million. It's not often, but sometimes people come in with a tremendous amount of net worth here into the office. They're just as lost as people that have $1 million to $3 million when it comes to producing income because they knew how to make that money. They knew how to save it. They knew how to sock it away, from the business or just maxing out accounts, getting paid a lot of money and just being super diligent about saving it. But people are really lost when it comes to putting together that phase 2 plan because over 90% of our industry, it's our understanding, helps people to save and accumulate and invest. Yep. Very little advice and guidance out there, as we talk about all the time on this podcast, about putting that all together and having it last the next 30 to 40 years of your life in what we call phase 2. Yep. That's typically for people 60 years old and older. So how do you know? How could one know that they can retire successfully without a plan? Right. How would you know that? You have nothing to test. There's no math that can be run. And I don't know what kind of numbers you would be running, but you don't have a plan where you can test out all the scenarios and the possible outcomes. But when you do have a plan, statistics show that success goes through the roof, that you're going to have a successful plan. Because it can be monitored and tracked and all these things. And it gives people confidence when you have a plan and you know what's going on with your money, everything that has to do with your money. Got it. And you monitor it and update it several times a year. Right. I mean, we meet with our clients typically 4 times a year. Yeah. That gives people a lot of confidence, and that's what you need and deserve heading into full retirement. Okay, so number 1, not having a plan, but not only that, not just making a set it and forget it plan. It's a plan that needs
updates and changes. Your life changes. So
going to change. Yeah,
that's right.
Your life's going to change. You're going to retire. You may have a health event come up. You're going to have grandkids. You're going to move probably. You're probably not going to be in the home you're in now forever.
Okay.
Unless it is your forever home.
Right.
But tons of real estate transition and things too. So you want that plan to keep up with your life.
Right. So step number 1, mistake to avoid is not having a plan. Get that plan in place. Let's talk about what goes into the plan. Point number 2, a mistake that could cost you later is not saving for the future, and which, of course, people that have come to you, that's all they've been doing. They've been saving for the future.
Right.
So how does that rule apply to retirees?
Well, sometimes people aren't taking advantage of maxing out their 401ks or TSPs.
Okay.
They might be putting in 10, 15%, but maybe they're only putting away like $20,000 a year into each plan. Versus, in 2025, it's 30, 31,000.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's a super catch up provision this year for the first time ever for people between, I think it's 60 and 63, where they can actually put away another 3,000 or 4,000 for a total of like 34 to 35,000 a year if you're in between ages 60 and 63.
Okay.
A lot of people aren't taking advantage of things like these. Further, if you are, and you are taking advantage of fully maxing out your employer plan, like your 401k or TSP, then maybe you can save more money and you don't know where it should go. So you're just beefing up the bank account, and it might be making 3 or 4%, but it's not tax advantaged. So you really want to get as efficient as possible with the net worth and the nest egg that you're building.
Yep.
And really try to button it up and have it become most efficient right before you retire. It's really important.
Okay, so point number 2, mistake to avoid is not saving for the future. And to your point, in this phase of life, seeking out these additional opportunities for our savings that we are now coming into, because it's an age, it's a time frame where you're given extra advantages. So take advantage of those opportunities to save.
Can make a difference.
Okay, another thing that makes a big difference, point number 3, mistake not to make is not factoring in taxes, a huge area.
Yep, it is. And unfortunately, although a lot of people we meet with and most of our clients have enough saved, most Americans, most people in the DC metro area have saved a lot of money, but it's in pre-taxed accounts.
Yeah.
And so while you're working and while you're finishing those last handful of years, you can actually take advantage of things like TSP Roth, 401k Roth. Even if you're making a lot of money, there's no income restriction on contributing to your employer Roth portion of your employer plan.
Okay.
No income restriction. That's a tool.
Okay.
You could also potentially consider Roth conversions even while you're working, unless your income is really, really high. If it's $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year or higher, probably too high.
Okay.
Probably want to wait till one income stream goes away or you fully retire.
Okay.
But if you're making somewhere between $100,000 to $300,000 a year, which is a lot of people, then a Roth conversion could still be in play while you're working. So as you finish this last 3 to 5 years of work, before you fully retire, you could be proactively tax planning. And those dollars that go into the Roth from pre-tax accounts would be able to be accessed and grown tax-free down the road.
Okay.
It's never too late.
It's never too late.
But taxes, they're going to be probably, Heather, most people's biggest expense in retirement.
Okay.
So we can't ignore, just sweep this under the rug. I mean, it could account for 20 to 30% of our expenses in retirement. You bring in $100,000 a year. If 20, 30,000 a year is going out to tax, and you can reduce that and have more in a Roth IRA, more in tax-free accounts, you're going to have better tax efficient income in retirement.
Quick recap, points 1, 2, and 3, mistakes that can cost you later. Number 1, not having that plan. Number 2, not saving for the future and taking advantage of the savings opportunities you have as you get close to retirement. Number 3, of course, not factoring in taxes. Another area, point number 4, is not timing your job changes thoughtfully. So for somebody who's getting ready to exit the 9 to 5, leaving the workforce, what do they need to be considering?
First off, you need to know that you have enough money saved to retire.
Of course.
One common thing that is oftentimes overlooked is not having enough emergency funds saved.
Okay.
Enough cash in the bank saved. And what we don't see too often, Heather, is people leaving the workforce earlier than they should have. But what we do see a lot of is when people work too long because they haven't had the numbers run, and then they realize when they're at the conference room table with us that they could have retired 2, 3, 5 years ago.
And the time that's lost.
And they didn't need to work the last handful of years. And a lot of people think they just hear, well, people are retiring at 65 or 67. I need to get to that point. I need to get to 70. Simply not true for a lot of people. Well, What if you had known you could have retired 3 years ago? Would you have? Or would you have continued working? A lot of people would have retired if they can retire with dignity and confidence and they have enough money saved to pay the bills for life. Are you going to continue to work or are you going to retire? Ask yourself that question. And if you continue to work, a lot of people will still do that because they're not ready yet to retire. Mm-hmm. They've got enough money, but they're not ready yet. Mm-hmm. And then when a lot of people find out they can retire, it's one of the favorite things of my job, and one of the favorite things I get to do is tell people you can retire now. People need that assurance. Yep. People need that confidence, and that's what they're coming into us for. Oftentimes, is that added confidence that they can do it. They can pull the trigger. So don't work longer than you need to work. Yeah. Get all this math run and tested for you to see if you can retire.
It's an interesting perspective, your perspective about this point of this article, because when I think that the author of this article was saying not factoring, not timing your job changes thoughtfully, I think that they were thinking other things. But your perspective for folks that are retiring, it's the cost of time, because time is precious.
Yeah. What would you have done the last few years if you could have retired? Yeah. More travel, more time with your family and grandkids, instead of working for the man.
When it comes to mistakes that can cost you later, it's not necessarily a financial cost. The time cost also is something that you at Abich Financial, you factor in. All right. Point number 5 on this list, mistakes that could cost you later, is not planning for healthcare costs appropriately. So let's talk about that. What do we need to, because especially for retirement, there's different angles. It's not just what if I break an arm? It's long-term care, it's Medicare coverage, it's many different things that are factored in.
Well, let's talk about long-term care. I mean, most people don't have it. There's a big chance that you're going to need it down the road. There are several ways to tackle it. But many people know of friends and family members that have gone into an assisted living facility, a nursing home, in-home care, and the cost of that care is so expensive, maybe $150,000 a year this year in 2025, and that will probably double over the next 20 to 30 years. And so it could easily be $300,000 a year in your 80s. So if you're still living, and the longer you live, the greater there is that you'll need the care. And man, that can drain someone's assets and someone's net worth. So there are several ways you can tackle that. And planning for long-term care, if you haven't, a big reason why you want to put together a comprehensive retirement plan, because that healthcare planning should be included. It's not just the investment management. Think about all the risks that can mess up the investments you've just worked your entire life to save and build. Neglecting putting together a healthcare plan specifically to cover a potential long-term care event would be catastrophic. So make sure you do that.
Okay. When it comes to your financial future, of course, working to avoid mistakes now that will cost you later is the goal of all the plans that Abe and his team at Abish Financial are building. So just quick recap, 5 mistakes that can cost you later. 1, not having a plan. 2, not saving for the future and seizing the opportunity of circumstances to save more right now. Make sure you're taking advantage of those. Number 3, not factoring in taxes. 4, not understanding your job exit strategy and the timing of that appropriately. Because what if you could retire today and start taking advantage of your retirement years? And of course, number 5, not planning for healthcare costs. All of these things, they are things that you factor into the plans that you build at Abish Financial. Of course, working to avoid mistakes. I've misplaced my copy of the book, Abe. I was looking for it. So the book that you have written, let's discuss that, because that's another great resource for folks to understand mistakes to avoid. The Retirement Mountain is the title of your book. We've got links posted in the show notes. Lots of opportunities for you to get this knowledge that Abe has written down on paper for you to have this information. He wants you to have it going into your retirement years. Speak to the book a little bit too. A
lot about what we just talked about today on the podcast, Heather, is in this book, of the 7 steps: create an income plan, plan for Social Security, distribution plan, protecting your life savings, building a tax strategy. We talked about taxes. Don't forget long-term care, step 6, chapter 16, and then planning for your legacy. So, there's a lot of good actionable items that you can read and kind of learn to put together in what we call that phase 2 comprehensive retirement plan. And that's what a lot about the book is about. You're climbing up that ascent. You're just about ready to retire. You're at the top of your own retirement mountain. You want to descend down safely. And that's where most accidents happen. That's where most trouble is. And if you think about it, you want to protect your life savings and your life's work from all the risks that can mess it up.
Well, that's what you, Abe, you and your team are here to help people do, is help add layers of protection, help avoiding mistakes, working to ensure you're going to have the retirement that you want. So it starts with putting that plan in place. If you are looking to get some help from Abe and his team, you can begin the conversation visiting us at The Retirement Key. We also have links posted in the show notes. You can just click there to head to our website. Also learn more about Abe's book and all the other information we are hoping to share and get to you. It's important information. We just want you to have a happy, healthy retirement, of course. So again, start at theretirementkey.com.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich. To learn more about Abich Financial Services, visit theretirementkey.com. And join Abe for his radio show, The Retirement Key, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5 p.m. Abich Financial Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and the content of this communication has not been approved or verified by the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or by any state securities authority. The information contained in this material is intended to provide general information about Abich Financial Wealth Management and its services. It is not intended to offer investment advice. Investment advice will only be given after a client engages our services by executing the appropriate investment services agreement. Information regarding investment products and services are provided solely to read about our investment philosophy and our strategies.